What's the most awkward thing you've ever had to explain to your significant other? There's a lot, but I once had to finally tell my husband that his breath smelled awful. It was a daily thing, and he doesn't smoke or anything, and he brushes twice a day as recommended. It was so hard for me. I said, honey, I'm saying this because I love you, and there may be a problem. This isn't normal. You didn't always have halitosis. Turns out, he had an abscess, and was also diagnosed with oral cancer at age 25. I'm glad I got the nerve to just say it. Wow, that's amazing. You saved his life. Good for you. I had to explain to my ex that the tampon sizes, colors, women use do not vary depending on the size of their vaginas. This is what might have crossed his mind before I explained. Wow, that girl is buying the orange ones. She must have a huge VG. Done. Explain. I just remembered an incident that happened well in my past, pre-cell phone days, with an XXXGF. Thanks Reddit. She used my car to drop me off at the airport so I could go visit a buddy from high school. We lived, not together, about an hour from the airport. For my trip, I had to change planes. During my layover, I got paged by the airport intercom. Confused, I walked to a courtesy phone and dialed the given number. She was on the line, freaking out and crying. When I calmed her down enough to be coherent, she told me why. It turns out, after dropping me off, she drove back to my apartment and let herself in with my key. She then proceeded to go through all my stuff. She freaked out when she found old condoms in the back of an old dress, a different brand than we'd ever used. She therefore assumed I was cheating. So here I am, on a house phone in the middle of the Seattle airport, listening to an hysterical girl, and trying to explain the condoms are really old, but also trying to figure out why the heck she's in my house. Breaking up with her on the spot was out of the question as she was in my house and had my car. That relationship ended shortly after I got back home, and I changed the locks. Good call on the lock change. I was at a party with some friends, sausage fest, and needless to say we were all plastered. Anyways, my friend Joe thought it would be funny, he had a weird sense of humor, to hold me down and administer a hickey on my neck. Well, my GF at the time had a hard time believing that a burly bearded muscle man would give hickeys out as a joke. Still don't think she ever believed me. I was the victim, goddammit. My GF thought men always had erections. The look on her face after our first time when it went flaccid was hysterical. I had to explain to her how the penis works. She thought we just stuffed it downward into our pants. She must have thought we were veritable titans, capable of striding the earth with endless patience as our denim prisons continually strive to rob us of our sanity. I made the mistake of asking my girlfriend if she felt her period or if it was like, oh, look, I'm bleeding. Apparently, yes, it feels strange. Sometimes you can feel it coming out, most of the times, and sometimes there's just blood everywhere when you're on the toilet, but I won't call it strange. That pleasant anal requires some preparation and foresight, and that those professionals in the movies undergo the same preparations. It's just edited out. I hope more guys see this. My girlfriend thought that guys checked out each other's dongs in the locker room or at the urinal. As far as I know, we do not. Happened last night. I was watching Totally Spies in my room and the episode was about a villain who was slowing down people's intelligence to caveman-like. At one part, the cavemen were grunting and my boyfriend walks into my room and hears it. He turns around and leaves. I get a message on Facebook saying, "Enjoy your bestiality." I had to explain to him and my roommates that I was watching cartoons. Me. Do you know where a clit is? Him. Yes, of course. Me. Well, honey, it's about 1.5 inches higher of where you think it is. The first time my ex and I had sex, she was blown away that it felt good for her. She explained how with the guy before her, he was her first, that she basically didn't feel anything, so she assumed the female was basically just a wet hole for the guy to have at. In reality, he was so small she felt it, but nothing more than that. This makes me self-conscious and worried. I faked almost 2 years of orgasms. I was extremely young and had never even masturbated before, so I didn't know what an orgasm was supposed to feel like. I just assumed that when it felt really good, it was an orgasm. so I would tell him that I'd come multiple times. I was also his first, so he wasn't sure what a non-pornster orgasm looked like, and took my word for it. The one time I did have an orgasm, 6 months into our relationship, I felt horribly guilty. Although I could bring myself to orgasm with my fingers after that, he never could get me off, so I just kept faking it so he wouldn't feel bad. It was a horrible idea, and I couldn't bring myself to tell him until a drunken fight which resulted in our breakup. My ex-GF was very anti-anal despite never trying it. I'm personally very curious type, so once while I was alone home I tried it with her vibrator. She noticed it wasn't where she left it and I had to explain. Most awkward conversation I've had to this day. Not how I saw that going. That I want to be used and abused during sex. I know it's pretty common, but goddamn if it isn't weird trying to tell your boyfriend, I'm your dirty W. I laughed my butt off imagining his face the first time. I used to be a bit naive back in high school, and a certain unscrupulous young man decided to take advantage of this and tell me that blue balls was a life-threatening condition. Fast forward a year, I'm dating a guy long distance. He's in public one night, and so I decide to play around and tease him via text while he couldn't do anything about it. Obviously, blue balls gets mentioned at some point. He, not realizing that I was serious when I said he could die from it, plays along, saying it'd be a good way to go. I could have his books when he dies, etc. He then at some point goes to bed, and thus stops responding to texts. I immediately conclude that he must have died. I spent that entire night convinced I'd killed my boyfriend, until he texted me in the morning. He got a great laugh out of explaining to me that you can't actually die of blue balls, despite what most men would like me to believe. I used to have 2 male roommates, one of which used to sleepwalk. One night, when my BF was sleeping over, the roommate sleepwalked half naked into my room, asking if he could get under the covers with me. I had to encourage him out of my room and back to bed without waking him up, then comfort and convince my BF that my roommate had never slept in my bed before. We had recently gotten back together and he was suspicious of my relationship with the roommates, so this incident didn't help. You can actually wake up people who sleepwalk. We had a few friends over for drinks, in my bedroom, to keep noise down. One of them looked in my bedside drawer, at my instruction, for a cigarette lighter. She laughed and pulled out a box of condoms. Over the next hour or so, we blew half of them up. I got them free, and a few had spit or hand cream put in them, and were tied and left in various places. Someone else got out my pee mags and left one between the pages. Another got left down the side of the bed, and someone put one on a carrot and left it on my bedside cabinet. Eventually, I got them all to leave and, being drunk, went to bed without cleaning up. The girlfriend came over and was let in by the girl downstairs. She walked in and you can imagine the thoughts that went through her head. Pee mags, condoms everywhere used and blown up popped, one over a carrot next to my bed, and me passed out hungover in bed, naked. I had to explain to my wife that Friday and Saturday nights with the guys weren't actually spent at bars and strip clubs and doing random man stuff. Instead we play Magic the Gathering in tournaments and leagues. I bought a t-shirt for my good friend's birthday at a novelty store. It was green with a rust-colored trombone and underneath it said Rusty Trombone. My wife comes back from some frou-frou girly store just as I'm about to pay for it at the register, holds it up and goes, "I don't get it. What does that even mean?" There are a few others in line, so I tell her that I'll explain it in the car, which of course made her want to know right away. I got the death stare from the father of a teenage girl's as I whispered it into my wife's ear and her eyes got real big. I could see the look in the dad's face. It silently said, "If I end up having to explain that to my teenage daughter now, I'm going to murder you." I guess it would be the story of how I used to masturbate into the high heels that belonged to an ex-girlfriend and her housemate and eventually got myself found out. She just laughed about it, acknowledged my fetish and gave me a F. Sounds like a cool girl. I have had to explain chronic hemorrhoids to multiple girlfriends over the course of 5 years because, well, they can kill a mood. I really should get the surgery recommended. While I was living in China, my first Chinese girlfriend, She was ready to explore one evening, and after taking off my pants she was very confused. Apparently sex ed is a bit behind in the PRC and she had no idea that men have testicles. She was mesmerized. So, I really like to mess with telemarketers. I either drop some strange foreign accent, pretend I am crazy, beating someone something, or occasionally I pretend I am mentally challenged. Hilarity on my part ensues. The eve of my extreme embarrassment, my partner was busy with school, so no nookie. Therefore I was in another room, taking care of business. So, there I was, treating my body like an amusement park, when then called the telemarketer. I decided to go the all mentally challenged route, and was doing my best Downs voice, while at the same time doing a slow fap so as not to lose momentum. This was the moment my so came in, the room echoing with my best sloth voice, phone cradled on my shoulder, while I was idly stroking the Cyclops. The look of horror that crossed my soul is well etched in my memory. I would love to hear how you explained that XD. I went to BU and at the school pub there's a night's quest where you, over time, drink all 60 plus beers they have in stock. Once you finish all the beers there's a big ceremony where you invite all your friends and your friends pick out a knight's name for you. I had to explain to my new girlfriend at the time who came to the ceremony why my knight's name was so I'm not a chubby chaser, I'm an acceptor. I had to explain a hickey. It was located kind of on my arm, and even I had to think of where it came from when she pointed it out. Then suddenly I remembered I gave myself my own hickey, randomly sucking on my arm. Then I went to put my mouth on it and it lined up exactly where my mouth hits my arm. Silly. I had to explain titty fricking to a woman in her mid-20s. It ended up being more awesome than awkward though because she was down to try it. She's pretty naive and so it was really hard and awkward. Worst part was, do you still watch it now that we're together? Gah. My friend's girlfriend lives at a house with a name, rather than a number. Inglenook Place I believe it is. Anyway, whenever my friend had been there her parents' bedroom door had always been open, at the angle where he couldn't see the door itself at all. A few days ago, he went over and it was closed. He was pretty shocked and asked his girlfriend about why her parents had a sign reading Nookie Corner on the door. Of course, she pointed out the name of the house itself and, very innocently asked why. I think he actually explained the definition of nookie to her with the use of Urban Dictionary. I had to explain that I usually say I don't mind about a lot of stuff like where we get to have dinner or if she ever wanted me to get up an hour earlier and make her breakfast. Never did. Just saying. Because she made me a happy person that really didn't mind. And not because I don't care and dead inside I'm an inconsiderate jackass live to serve. Then she had to explain the story behind those scars on her forearm. Not me per se, but my wife and I were virgins when we met. I had read and studied about sex, so I naturally assumed sex was over when we both had orgasms. Quickly, I realized it was logical to make sure she came first. Then I came last so I wouldn't fall asleep and leave her frustrated. I guess thankfully, she's never had trouble having an orgasm, so I never felt frustrated for myself in our 23 years of marriage. Because of this, she assumed this was normal. Until we got older and she spoke to other women, who seem amazed she thinks this is normal. Some think she's arrogant or lying. You are a freaking god. As soon as we are able to make clones let's get you first. I had a female friend from years back that I didn't talk to a lot, but had her in my phone. She was married and the last I had talked to her, they were struggling with fertility problems. So one night I get this text, which probably went to everyone in her phone, that simply said, "I'm pregnant." And of course this is one of the times my wife picks up my phone when it buzzes. Explaining a P folder after forgetting you had placed such folder in an obscure space on your computer while she's on my lap. Times were tough, babe. With my boyfriend, I had to explain that Santorum sometimes accompanies anal. He was super embarrassed before I explained that. I would be embarrassed too if some evangelical politician was standing behind me when giving anal. I had to describe what lemon putty was without inciting her curiosity enough for her to check that what I was saying was true. I was successful and she still hasn't seen lemon putty but knows what it is. Apparently the foreskin is able to slip over the head of the penis. I'm 28. I'd previously thought my dong was breaking turning inside out. I had to explain to my girlfriend recently that the curiosity on Mars won't get lonely and lose its mind. She's 26 and 2 months. My hemorrhoids and the following day's procedure for such. Me. Yeah, well, UHH. They're basically just enlarged blood vessels that protrude out your anal canal and can bleed and be painful. Oh, okay. That doesn't sound bad. Me. Google it. Her after googling it. OMG, what the frick? That looks terrible. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.